What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one who never knows best, and today I'm joined by a very, very special guest whose name gets mentioned in every video where I play a certain purple character. But today I'm joined by the one, the only Raptr. Say what's up to the people.
I wonder who that could be. G'day everyone. I am Raptr. I've made like 1 or 2 videos on YouTube. Once
You know what I'm saying? But those 1 or 2 videos have clearly made a very big impact on this player base, because anytime I say anything about hit or play the character or have a question, I was like, oh, but have you heard of Raptr? People not knowing, and I understand, I guess, because it's not like we collaborate very often, but people not knowing that I've known you basically since year 1 of the game. I'm like, I feel like recently we talked more and stuff like in the last couple of years, but we've pretty much known who each other were since 2018.
We did see each other at Evo.
And we did actually meet at Evo.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so as we are all acutely aware, the Dragon Ball FighterZ balance patch that we've all been waiting and anticipating is finally here, finally upon us, and I have a slew of content that I'm trying to get through for you guys. There's just so many different things I gotta knock out. I have a whole to-do list in the notepad on my phone, but I saw that Raptr was live and I wanted to bring him on the channel specifically because Hit in particular is one of the characters that was affected in this patch in a very specific way that only applied to a select few characters. So I want to get his thoughts and opinions on that, as well as obviously the rest of the patch as well. But I do want to start off the conversation by saying, how are you feeling about the meter gain nerf, obviously to Hit, as he's one of the only 7 characters who was affected, and to the top tiers overall? Because I have personally gone on record to say that I think Janemba and Zamasu are characters that are arguably in that number 5 spot for top 5 characters in the game. And you're well aware that a lot of the top players, both in Europe and here in North America, really don't like Hit and think he's pretty stupid. So Hit managed to get tacked on to those 7 characters between Fusion's Labcoat, Janemba, and yeah. So how are you feeling about the meter gain nerfs to the other characters, but and even more specifically Hit?
The meter gain percentages and the changes they've done, I am actually like super positive about, simply because it allows the characters to still like maintain their strengths. Like, you don't boot up, you play Vegito, and they've stripped away his 5M, they stripped away his legs. You can't play neutral with him. He's like, if anyone recalls, like, if anyone was around during vanilla, like Gogeta Blue, vanilla Vegito, those characters were arse. They were not good. They were pretty bloody bad. So rather than just like reverting them to how they were then, and you just take away their tools until they're no longer fun to play and they just simply cannot keep up in the meta, you limit their effectiveness in other areas where, like, you can still 5M with Vegeta, but you're probably not going to be level 3ing with him very much if you paired him with his blue brethren. Right. Unfortunately, yeah.
And that's one of the things that I feel like I've seen a lot of people saying that the meter gain nerf is lazy, but I can't say that it's not effective. And it's interesting how it works, because now you're gonna have a situation where Vegito, who somehow escaped really getting any other nerfs outside of this, but he's still very functional. He's still gonna be strong, but you can't just throw Vegito on a team with Gogeta and Labcoat now, unless you want to seriously sacrifice your ability to output damage and build bar, because all 3 of those characters are now suffering from a permanent penalty. And so it's like, yeah, that actually does help increase variety in team structure and makes it so that you're not just seeing the exact same team, or at least the same combination of 2 characters on every single team. I mean, you know, there's always going to be a meta in every version of every fighting game, but it's not going to be just double fusions on every team, most likely moving forward. But I see a lot of really strong opinions on it, and people saying that it's really lazy. And I don't have a strong opinion on it. I just think it's weird.
I really don't like it when people say it's lazy specifically, simply because I think it's a simplistic change. It's simple in nature. It doesn't necessarily mean it's lazy, because it works, right? It actually does work, and it works really well, because it's funny that a lot of people are upset now, despite the fact that you now have to consider other team options. Like, I mean, base QB now has a reason to exist, which is kind of wild to think about. Yeah. You have to consider alternate strategies, actual team building, and how you are approaching each matchup in the team building game. Like, it is a team where you're supposed to have 3 characters. You actually have to put thought into how you're assembling your crew, which I do like, because it's not very fun to watch when the best 3 characters in the game do everything better than everyone.
Right.
Like your characters that are the best at spending meter are also the best at building it. By the way, they're also the best at neutral, and they have the best assists.
And that's one of the things that made this
meta.
Yeah, that's one of the things that made this meta so difficult and tiresome, is that in any team game, there's only going to be but so many characters, and obviously top tier characters are going to be seen across the board. And it's like, okay, it's one thing when like this is a team game, so you see like this one character on everybody's team, but it's like the same 2 or sometimes even same 3 characters all across the board. And it's like, well, yeah, it makes sense because they're the best in neutral, they're the best at building bar, they're the best at spending bar, they have access to a mechanic that everybody has access to, but they use it well, like way more than anyone else. And of course I'm referring to the active tag, because obviously the fusions utilize that way better than anyone else. And it's just like, okay, they do everything better than every other character, and they also synergize really well together. So it's like, what do you do? And frankly, I feel like they answered the question of how to stop that pretty effectively, because all those characters are still useful and strong, but now playing them together, like it's kind of broken, because the meter gain nerf is so severe between all 3 of those characters not building the bar. It's like, okay, well, it's not really viable to really run all 3 of them.
Although you do say that, but now it's kind of insanely wild to think about. We're now in a timeline where it's probably going to be a pretty like bad move to run lab coat fusions, because you're basically telling your opponent, I think I'm going to open
I'm just going to outplay you regardless.
Times, yeah, before you get me once, before you crack me once.
It's the Kazunoko strat. It's like, oh, don't worry, I might 4 or 5 touch you, but I'm going to get those 4 or 5 touches.
Oh yeah, I'm going to get them. I look forward to it.
Though.
But it's also pretty important to note that, like, so this patch has introduced some rising stars that I think are going to probably become much more common in like tournaments and high level play, and even just like online, because as like Vegeta Blue's looking a bit like a meteorite on a crash course with like the competitive scene.
There's 4 characters right now I'm looking at that I'm like, yeah, I won't be surprised if you start seeing some more play. And those 4 characters are Blue Vegeta, Android 18, Jiren, and Baby. I think Jiren and Baby got some pretty good nerfs. Jiren is a character. Okay, so all of these characters are characters that I thought were really strong. The strongest I thought of these 4 before this patch was Android 18, who was another one. I'm like, yeah, she might actually be top 5 now. I know that was an ongoing thing for a lot of people, and I was like, no, y'all are bugging, you're overrating her. But in the last patch, I was like, yeah, she might be top 5 now. Some of the other ones came down and she stayed the same. Now, not only in this patch did she not get nerfed, I thought she was going to lose her level 3 Oki. They might nerf EX17. They was going to change barrier.
From Margin 21.
They buffed her. She didn't lose anything. She only got buffs. I'm like, oh, what?
It's actually pretty significant, because they removed the skill cap from having to Tiger Knee or instantly cancel your barrier.
It's nuts. So 18's a character I expect to see a lot more of. And then you have characters like Blue Vegeta, Baby, and Jiren, who I thought were really strong, but kind of specialist characters. There were certain areas where they were lacking, but they've all received significant buffs. The damage output of Blue Vegeta right now is just, it's insane. It's through the roof. They're finding so many new combo routes for him.
Oh yeah, I think it'll get mediated a bit if the Big Bang, because you can use the medium auto combo, because the Big Bang attack is used in that, which you then can cancel into another Big Bang attack.
Right.
That definitely kind of pushes his damage a little bit over the edge. But speaking of Blue Vegeta, it's why I really appreciate the fact that they did not like gut the top tiers, or like strip their tools away until they can't compete.
Because if they had,
simply because Vegeta Blue does not have the most amazing neutral. His neutral is flawed, and at this point, because I don't know how much you've been toying around with the lab coat nerfs, but her spin is... if you're using that just like raw on block, like I play Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, if I can just react to it on block, I reflect, I get a guaranteed EX Lariat, which you cannot assist to save yourself, because it goes through assists, it goes through projectiles. I'm chunking more than half your life bar for doing that on block, right?
It's another thing, by the way, is the fact that Gogeta's another character who got out relatively scot-free. I really expected and kind of hoped that he would lose the medium scaling on the Lariat.
I did, honestly, as a Super Saiyan 4 player, I did too, but it also brings me back around to the point where, so with Lab Coat kind of taken down from top dog, I think Vegito has the best neutral in the game currently.
I would agree.
Which means you could pick him then if you know your opponent is going to be running Vegeta Blue, in the idea of, alright, you're playing the new top tier, and he's probably going to maul me if he gets in. But if you're playing Vegito, he's probably not going to get in. Simply because you have to play around his, or you could play it like Z Broly is now so so much better with just such like simple changes. If you like pop barrier, he can't play neutral because your 5S, your JS, and Big Bang attack, as buffed as it is, probably isn't going to save you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be really the idea of like everyone being Blue Vegeta mains or like seeing Blue Vegeta a lot at the highest level is like so insane to me.
It's really interesting.
But yeah, and then going on to like Baby and Jiren. So Baby and Jiren, they both suffered a very similar issue where they were really strong. They have some. Well, Baby has some really cool combos. Jiren has some very damaging combos. I don't think his combos are very cool. Yeah, he has combos, right? But both of them, their biggest issue was they can't really mix you up. You know, Baby's normals are kind of slow. Jiren doesn't have lows. His command grab is reactable. However, with the
speed at all, either best patch too.
Yeah, but now they kind of can do a little mixing and
a little bit. He might have some of the better medium normals in the whole video game.
Yeah, so now it's kind of like, well, it's now the question is, well, what are their flaws? Because that was the biggest hole in their game, was that they couldn't really mix you like that. But now it's kind of like, we might be in some trouble.
Very interesting.
Because those were already characters like, hey, if you don't really know what you're doing against this character, you might kind of get not like a Majin Buu or a Nappa where it's like a crazy knowledge check and they've got some ridiculous set play, but it's like, yo, they've got some well, in Jiren's case, he has some really big normals. He does a lot of damage. You get hit, say goodbye to your health bar, and now you're going to get hit. And it's not like they were lacking really in neutral either. I mean, Jiren's got a 5S that jails an advantage on block, easily hit confirmable, and then obviously Baby neutral doesn't need to be explained very much at all. We already know that that's strong, and I get it's very key blast dependent a lot, and key blasts aren't necessarily always the strongest in this current version of the game, or I say current version, but just in the meta.
If you've seen the new Frieza,
That's remains to be seen. I'm not gonna make it too. It seems like they tried to make zoning better in this version, and I think I can't speak on it too firmly because I've only played with so much. I haven't played nearly as much as I would like to yet. Yeah, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet, I don't think. But where was I going? Yeah, like Frieza's a character who I thought, was pretty okay. Like definitely could use some help. But now with the additional changes, it's like, oh no, like he's a legitimate like zoning threat, but it doesn't feel like overbearing just yet. But we'll see. I want to see some people explore with that character, experiment, because I think he already had some stuff that wasn't really played a whole lot, and now with him being buffed and that the assist too is kind of like crazy.
Yeah, so that was easily one of the biggest issues in his kit. It was when, for as long as this game's been out, like if you don't have a usable assist, you are essentially a giant liability to your team at all times. If you're not like on the field, if you're not on point, you are essentially a liability to your team. So they've taken care of that. And now they've made his zoning really scary, and I'm like terrified. I check under my bed every night for Frieza at this point because our resident Frieza main in Australia, for the first time ever in the game's life, he's actually happy with the character.
I bet. I'm just
something is clearly
like I'm just thinking about it now. Like Frieza jumps, right? He starts throwing orbs, like doing the slow ones, fast ones, whatever. And then on top of that, y'all gotta remember Frieza's JS beats Super Dash, so he starts throwing these orbs, letting them travel across the ground. You're like, oh, bet I'll just Super Dash over him. Ha, gotcha. JS beats Super Dash. Hold that. And that being said, you mentioned something about like, well, if you're not on point, being a liability because his assists were so bad. Well, they fixed that. They buffed the A and the B assist. And the B assist is really strong now. But I feel like something is also to be said there in terms of like being a liability now with Android 21. So going back to Lab Coat for a second, they nerfed her spins, right? But more importantly, as it pertains to her being a point character, they nerfed her meter gain. So the immediate thought for me, right, is like, okay, they nerfed Lab Coat's meter gain. I personally actually really enjoyed the character. I know, let's settle down out there. Let's put down the torches and pitchforks. You know what I'm saying? However, it's like, okay, my thought process immediately was like, okay, she builds a lot less bar. Bet. And then I'll put her mid. You let some other character build bar. Let's play 18 on point or something, or whoever I'm going to play, right? And then, use her as an assist. But damn, the spin nerf also applies to the assist, and that makes the A assist kind of trash. I'm not gonna lie. So then it begs the question. It's like, okay, where is the proper place for a character like Labco? And then you realize like, damn, those are really like impactful nerfs because the spin nerf is already bad enough as it is for her on point, and then you combine it with the meter nerf, and it's like, okay, player mid or anchor, but the assist is kind of whack now. So it's like, okay, now do I play barrier? Do I play assist? It's like, damn, you actually have to like think. It's like, you might have to actually really enjoy the character of the player now, because it's not just slap her on any team and win. You know what I'm saying? And she's still gonna be strong, I feel, but I do think these nerfs matter.
Because she seems to me as, I mean, actually having to work your way in now, because obviously she's still going to have like her projectiles, she still has the beam, she still has the JS, she still has the barrier, but she has now essentially fallen into the same kind of trap I'm seeing, like the current like really good characters, the like rising stars of like 18, Vegeta Blue, and now Lab Coat is, they're really good at kind of like hanging back and annoying you, but they can't really do much else in neutral anymore. Which is why I think it's really interesting how it's going to develop, where it's like, alright, you've lost your way to initiate in neutral. Vegito hasn't. Vegito is still sitting here with like a full screen 5M. And you've also got characters like 16 now, who gives me nightmares every single time I close my eyes, because he has a full screen 24 frame command grab.
He does. It could be worse. He could get, you know, a meterless hard knockdown anywhere on screen that he gets like a four-way mix-up from, and you just, you know, you get grabbed once, and then you're just guessing for the rest of the game. But that would be crazy. They would never get
that sounds like a nightmare, bro. I don't know what you're on about, honestly.
That'd be a pretty crazy idea.
Oh boy.
Meterless hard knockdown. Anyway,
1,000 yards there for a moment. Into the distance.
Man, before we get out of here, I do want to circle back around to the meter gain nerfs, and as it applies to hit specifically. So I understand why, but there are a couple of people who don't really understand like why hit of all characters is just kind of thrown in there with like everyone understands why like the fusions are lab coat, but I want you as the hit specialist to break down why it is that a character like hit would get hit with something like this. And you seem to be pretty positive. And for the record, by the way, in case you guys aren't aware, the fusions in the lab coat got a 50% meter nerf. However, I believe it's Zamasu, Hit, and Janemba got 30%. I've seen 25 and I've seen 30 both on Twitter.
I'm pretty sure it's 30. I
haven't done the numbers myself.
Regardless of what it is, it's like a 5% isn't really. It's
right. So what I want you to help everyone understand is why a character like Hit would suffer, or why he got hit with something like that, despite the fact that he's not necessarily a character who builds a lot of bar. It's about how he's able to spend that bar.
Yeah, because it's the three other characters besides from like the lab code fusion, the current gatekeeper, or the previous gatekeepers, essentially they were pretty much meter dumpers in a way, since I guess Janemba doesn't necessarily have the same meter dump, but he is in the same realm of he kind of fulfilled the same role as Z Broly before, where what he wants to do is he's going to run up, he's going to swing his like ginormous buttons, then he's going to command grab you, he's going to level 3 you, and now you have to guess for character, guess for game. So I enjoy the fact that they are not compromising. Like, you can still hit that same like level 3 mix with Janemba. You can still do the insane like Blades of Judgment with like Swords of Revealing Light with Zamasu and pin someone down in the corner. And with Hit, I honestly, I haven't noticed it as much with Hit specifically, simply because I'm not a player that was very like blasé with my EXs. I kind of like it thematically, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but an assassin probably should be pretty accurate, right?
yeah, I think we can all agree with that.
I don't think it's very assassin-like to be just like, oh, EX kick, EX kick, EX kick. You just keep going until you hit something. Like, yes, first try. I think it's punishing a player for using their EXs, like whiffing them, even if you don't get an immediate punish from your opponent, you are still actually holding something negative there. So if you are just like matching your EX stances or your EX kicks, and you're missing them all, you are seeing no return for it, it's stacking up, because you're not going to get that meter back the moment you like land any touch. Because even though there are meter penalties on using an EX move, they did put the change in a few patches ago where there's essentially a time limit before that comes up.
Right.
Where you would have situations where like Super Saiyan 4 builds back all the meter he uses and then some on an EX Lariat. So actually having real lasting consequences for using your really powerful, like, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue with me that his kick is pretty bloody powerful. I feel like having an actual lasting like consequence for misusing them is pretty important, because when I play him, I'm usually a bit more conservative with my EX kick, with my EX stance usage. So you're
a better man than me, because when I'm playing that character, I'm just kicking all over the place.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's so good.
It's
it's
an
half a
acquired
bar.
taste.
Like
You can play him how you want, yeah. But it's essentially like I play like on my team, 2 out of 3 of my characters are 30% like or 25% meter nerf. I have noticed it actually come into play once where I was unable to, like, I just didn't build the meter, so I sparked no Dragon Rush and I killed them instead. So realistically, when it comes to like in neutral needing meter, even though my point character doesn't build as much, I haven't really noticed it, but I do feel like it's warranted. It's essentially an insurance policy to be sure that a character that really can abuse a lot of meter cannot be allowed to like run rampant with just unfiltered access to just like an arseload of bar just constantly.
Yeah, I definitely understand like the idea, the concept behind why they did it. It's just interesting to see some of the varying opinions on it, and I'm sure that some of the other guests that you guys are going to see here on the channel in the forthcoming days, and I'm not sure what order these videos are going to be in.
Different opinions.
Yeah, I think Raptr's got a much more positive outlook and a much more tame opinion. I think as some of the other people you guys are going to hear from
very positive.
won't be as optimistic as he is. But nah, man, like I said, I haven't dabbled too much in the patch yet. Like I'm really starting to sink my teeth into it now, and I'm digesting a lot of clips and stuff and playing around with it for myself. But
it's still only been like it's new developments.
Yeah, but I do want to thank you so much for joining me here today. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up. You know what I'm saying? Always a pleasure. And definitely, like we're waiting on that rollback patch. When rollback comes, Raptr and I will be. We played once before. It was hilarious. It was like 10 frames the whole time. It was really funny.
It was when so long ago. It was when Gogeta 4 came out.
Yeah. But when rollback does come, one of these days, y'all will see a log set between Raptr and I, man.
These hands are rated E for everyone. Let me tell you.
For sure. But anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Hitsy is good, and so is Hit.
Well, Hitsy just got buffed.
I mean.
It comes back faster.
It's like 2 seconds. It's actually like 2 seconds.
I don't know the exact amount of time it is. I just know that CSS regenerate faster.
If you didn't tell me you got buffed, I would never have realized.
Oh, for sure. Well, anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you can stay tuned for all the content that I bring you. With all that being said, it's been all today. And remember, that it can happen to you when you're bad.
Take it easy.